Did you know South Korea squeezes more than 52 million people into a landmass smaller than Indiana, yet 3/4 of that land is locked up in mountains? Or that one of its islands is actually a single giant shield volcano studded with more than 360 mini-cones? South Korea isn't just skyscrapers, dramas, and K-pop. It's a compact explosion of volcanoes, island chains, lava tubes, and ice age relics that still shape everyday life from subway routes to fishing grounds. So, stick with us as we reel off 7 insane geography facts about South Korea that you've probably never heard. Fact 7. A mountain wall that pushes everyone into narrow plains. Look at a map and South Korea seems simple, but tilt it into 3D and you see the real story. A rugged spine of mountains hogging most of the land, leaving just thin fringes of flat ground where almost everyone has to live. Between 70% and 75% of the country is mountains and hills, dominated by the Taebaek Range running down the east like a stone backbone, with offshoots of the Sobaek Range stabbing westward. That means less than 1/3 of the land is true lowland, yet around 52 to 53 million people crowd into those river valleys and coastal plains, pushing national density to around 500 people per square kilometer, over 10 times the global average. The capital region of Seoul, Incheon, and Gyeonggi Province sucks in nearly half the population onto a relatively small plain around the Han River, turning a geological pinch point into one of the world's largest megacities. For locals, mountains are just part of the backdrop. For planners, they're an iron constraint that dictates where every subway line, ring road, and new town can go. This mountainous backbone also splits the country into contrasting worlds. To the east, the Taebaek Mountains rise steep and fast from the coastline, giving that side rectilinear shores, short rivers, and tightly wedged cities like Gangneung between peaks and sea. To the west and southwest, the highlands gradually sag into basins and deltas, where rivers like the Han, Gyeom, Yongsan, and mighty Nakdong meander across broad plains that became South Korea's rice bowl and industrial heartland. Fly over the country and you see a stark pattern, dark green ridges and forests in the highlands, then sudden flares of concrete and neon where the land finally flattens enough to build. South Korea's entire urban story is really a negotiation with its bedrock. Fact 6. Jeju, an entire island that's actually one giant volcano. Jeju Island looks like a chill honeymoon destination, but geologically it's a monster. An enormous shield volcano that rises about 3,000 meters from the seafloor, crowned by Hallasan, South Korea's highest peak at 1,950 meters above sea level. Over hundreds of thousands of years, fluid basaltic lava oozed and stacked into a broad dome, then kept erupting through side vents, scattering the island with around 360 parasitic cinder and scoria cones, small volcanoes perched on the flanks of a bigger one. Those cones and flows created black rock coastlines, natural stone pillars, and long, gently sloping fields that today grow Jeju's famous tangerines. Hikers who trudge up Hallasan's trails are really climbing the hardened plumbing of repeated eruptions, layer on molten layer. The island hides an even stranger secret underground. When big lava rivers drained away inside their own crusts, they left behind hollow tubes that now form some of the world's most spectacular lava caves, like the Geomanorium system stretching for many kilometers beneath the surface. Inside, you find lava stalactites, lava benches, and even carbonate formations formed by minerals leaching down from sands above. Features so unusual that Jeju's volcanic island and lava tubes became a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Fact 5. Ulleungdo, the lonely volcano brewing in the East Sea. Far out in the East Sea, Sea of Japan, Ulleungdo floats alone, a steep green triangle of cliffs and clouds that seems cut off from everything, because it is literally the summit of another large volcano thrusting up from deep water. Unlike Jeju's broad dome, Ulleungdo grew as a stratovolcano, layering lava and ash into rugged peaks and a central basin where a caldera lake once sat. Geologically, it belongs to a chain of Cenozoic intraplate volcanoes born in a back arc basin, evidence of hot mantle material punching through a thick continental plate long after the main subduction fireworks shifted elsewhere. Researchers studying the gases and mineral-rich springs on Ulleungdo have found signatures of upper mantle volatiles, whispers from deep earth still venting toward the surface. Fact 4. An empire of islands, mudflats, and extreme tides. South Korea doesn't just have a mainland, it commands an archipelago of about 3,400 offshore islands and islets, most of them off the south and west coasts. The western Yellow Seaside, with its shallow waters and gentle slopes, breeds sprawling tidal flats known locally as Getbo and Nikolporsita in Sasoy, where the sea marches in and out over kilometers twice a day. At low tide, people walk far out on exposed mud to harvest shellfish, seaweed, and small crabs, turning a landscape that looks like empty sea at noon into bustling farmland by evening. These tidal flats, some of which are recognized as globally important wetlands, also host migratory birds on long Pacific flyways, using Korea as a refueling stop between Siberia and Australia. It's a biological superhighway powered purely by gravity and the moon. Fact 3. River systems that defy the country's rugged skeleton. With all those mountains, you might expect South Korea's rivers to be short and brutal, but they still carve out broad basins that feed millions. The Han River, rising in the Taebaek Highlands, slashes westward through granite and gneiss before fanning into a wide floodplain that cradles Seoul and its satellite cities. The Gyum and Yongsan rivers organize agriculture in the central and southwest regions, irrigating rice paddies that turn entire valleys into shimmering mirrors in summer. To the southeast, the Nakdong River, the country's longest at over 500 kilometers, drains a massive basin between mountain chains before emptying into the Korea Strait near Busan, threading together industrial hubs, historic cities like Daegu and lowland farms. Each river basin is like a parallel universe, its own dialects, crops, and urban centers, all carved by water but separated by ridges. Fact 2. A peninsula that once sat under tropical seas and still carries the evidence. It's hard to imagine when you're shivering in a Seoul winter, but hundreds of millions of years ago, the land that would become Korea lounged in warmer latitudes under shallow tropical seas. Those waters left behind thick layers of marine sediment, limestones, sandstones, and shales that were later crumpled and metamorphosed as bits of continental crust collided to assemble East Asia. In places, ancient reefs and seabed deposits now form cliffs, ridges, and plateaus miles inland. The rocks beneath Korean feet record a journey from equatorial waters to today's temperate monsoon belt, dragged northward on the slow conveyor belt of plate tectonics. Fact 1. Invisible tectonic seams and a restless underground. South Korea feels seismically calm compared with Japan, but its bedrock still hides a web of ancient faults and intraplate tensions that occasionally snap to life. The peninsula rides on the Eurasian plate, buffered from direct subduction zones, yet stresses from neighboring plate interactions accumulate in crustal weaknesses left over from long-past rifting and collision events. Historical records and recent monitoring have documented moderate earthquakes in regions like Gyeongju and Pohang, powerful enough to crack buildings, trigger landslides, and remind residents that the ground underfoot is not perfectly still. Geothermal gradients and scattered hot springs hint at deeper heat, especially near volcanic provinces linked to broader Northeast Asian magmatism that includes giants like Baekdu on the northern border.